What's going on YouTube? Listen up, young elder gang. This is Dr. Joe Blow at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video, you will find history, definitions, scripture, information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the truth. Keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for educational and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. Alright, let's get started. Today we will go in on the rise of Black Wall Street, the shocking truth. In the early 20th century, a beacon of hope shone brightly amidst the darkness of racial segregation. Racial segregation is the separation of people into racial or other ethnic groups in daily life. Segregation can involve the spatial separation of the races and mandatory use of different institutions, such as schools and hospitals, by people of different races. An ethnic group is a group of people who identify with each other based on shared characteristics that differentiate them from other groups. Also, might I add, we are going to be using the word black throughout this lecture. The capitalization of black, which has been pushed for years, strikes at deeper questions over the treatment of people of Native American descent who were stripped of their identities and enslaved in their own land as POWs. In the military, POW stands for prisoner of war, which is a status given to soldiers who are captured by the enemy while fighting under the orders of their government. POWs are protected by the Geneva Convention and are detained against their will. They may be subjected to poor living conditions, beating, starvation, and other mistreatments. Black is a racialized classification of people, usually a political and skin color-based category for specific populations with a mid to dark brown complexion. Not all people considered black have dark skin. In certain countries, often in socially based systems of racial classification in the Western world, the term black is used to describe persons who are perceived as dark-skinned compared to other populations. Keep in mind, black is not a noun, it's an adjective. Think over that. The word black may include all Negroes, but the term Negro does not include all black persons. We are of the opinion that the words white, Negro, mulatto, and black person, whenever they occur in our Constitution, must be taken in their generic sense. That the words black person in the 14th section must be taken as contradistinguished from white and necessarily includes all races other than the Caucasian. The possibility that Native Americans were quite commonly called Negroes is very much supported by Portuguese usage. During the colonial period, Brazilian Indians were repeatedly referred to as Negros or as Negros da Terra, Negroes of the land. A great many examples from the 16th and later centuries are cited by Georg Friederichi in his analysis of Portuguese sources. These do not have to be repeated here, but suffice to say that it was so common that finally in 1755, a royal decree had to be issued as follows: among the regrettable practices, which have resulted in the disparagement of the Indians, one prime abuse is the unjustifiable and scandalous practice of calling them Negroes. Perhaps by so doing, the intent was no other than to induce in them the belief that by their origins they had been destined to be the slaves of whites, as is generally conceded to be the case of blacks from the coast of Africa. The directors will not permit henceforth that anybody may refer to an Indian as a Negro, nor that they themselves may use this epithet among themselves, as is currently the case. In conclusion, black or white is not the identification or nationality of a people. It is just racial status. Okay, let's talk about Black Wall Street. Black Native Americans saw in Tulsa an opportunity for business. Tulsa itself was a boom town. The reason was in 1905, an oil well wildcatter discovered the Glen Pool, which was the richest small oil field in the entire world. And so when the city began to boom because of oil, it just drew more people. These professionals and merchants in these smaller, all-black Native American towns, they then migrated to Tulsa. They were coming by train, they're coming by wagon, they're walking, they're getting there any way that they could. During this time, the city of Tulsa went from this sleepy cow town into something else. There's a part of the city in the northeastern corner that becomes the primary black Native American settlement, known as Greenwood. Keep in mind, at this time they had been reclassified as black, Negroes, colored, and then African Americans falsely. Black Wall Street was located in Greenwood, a district in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was a testament to the resilience and entrepreneurial spirit of so-called African Americans, who were really the native or indigenous people of the land. This community thrived against all odds. They built a vibrant economic center. Still, they persevered. Greenwood was more than just a business district. It was a vibrant community with its own schools, churches, and hospitals. Residents organized events and celebrations. There was a strong sense of community. The entrepreneurial spirit was remarkable. They created businesses that catered to their community. The success of Black Wall Street drew national attention. Booker T. Washington dubbed it Black Wall Street. Despite segregation, Greenwood flourished. Black Wall Street became a symbol of hope and inspiration.
Born in Huntsville, Alabama in 1866, he experienced firsthand the harsh realities of racial discrimination against the black native to the land. You see, one thing they're not telling you is that the black Native American owned diamond mines in Alabama during the 1800s and early 1900s. So, O.W. Gurley family was already very wealthy. He carried within him a burning desire for change. O.W. Gurley, who really is the father of the Greenwood district, and like we said, established the first business there in 1906. O.W. Gurley was from the Creek Nation of Native American from Alabama.
Gurley moved to Perry, Oklahoma in 1893 and opened a general store. He saw an opportunity to create a community where black Native American people could thrive. In 1905, Gurley set his sights on Tulsa. He purchased 40 acres of land north of the Frisco Railroad tracks in Tulsa. This land would become the foundation of Greenwood.
His vision was clear. He wanted to establish a community where black Native American people owned and controlled their own businesses.
Gurley's first act was to build a rooming house on Greenwood Avenue. This was the first business in the district. He named the street after Greenwood, Mississippi. This was a symbolic gesture. It connected the new community to the rich history of black resilience in the South. Gurley understood the importance of providing essential services to the growing community. He opened a grocery store. This ensured residents had access to food and supplies. He then built a hotel. This provided lodging for travelers and newcomers. These early businesses laid the groundwork for Greenwood's future prosperity. Gurley didn't stop there. He established a school. He knew education was crucial for advancement. He built a church. This served as a spiritual center for the community. Word of Greenwood's promise spread quickly. Black Native American families and individuals began to migrate to Tulsa, seeking refuge from racial injustice and economic hardship. They were inspired by Gurley's hustler vision. As Greenwood's population grew, so did its commercial landscape. New businesses sprouted up along Greenwood Avenue, catering to the diverse needs of the community. The district was bustling with activity.
Lula and Gurley arrived in Greenwood with a shared entrepreneurial spirit. He recognized the untapped potential of the district.
They opened a confectionery store, and it quickly became a popular gathering spot. They later expanded their ventures, opening a movie theater and a pool hall.
Their success inspired others. O.W. Gurley and J.B. Stratford, they worked together, and they had a specific intent to make black Native Americans wealthy landowners and entrepreneurs again. They both knew what the state of Oklahoma was offering. They knew that they needed to be very intentful in creating Greenwood. These were members of a black Native American community who were showing black Native American people that a new world was possible. J.B. Stratford, a prominent lawyer and entrepreneur, built the Stratford Hotel. This grand establishment became a symbol of Greenwood's rising prominence, hosting prominent black Native Americans figures from across the nation.
Greenwood was more than just a collection of businesses. It was a close-knit community where residents supported each other and shared a common goal of building a better future.
A strong sense of unity permeated the district, fostering a spirit of cooperation and mutual support.
Despite the rapid growth and prosperity, Greenwood faced its share of challenges. Racial tensions simmered beneath the surface of Tulsa's segregated society. White residents viewed Greenwood's success with suspicion and resentment. Discriminatory practices hindered Greenwood's progress. Black Native American businesses often struggled to secure loans from white-owned banks, limiting their ability to expand and grow. They faced unfair competition from white businesses. Despite these obstacles, Greenwood's residents persevered. They found creative ways to overcome the challenges. They established their own financial institutions, providing access to capital for black Native American businesses. They pooled their resources, allowing them to invest in community development projects. Their resilience and determination laid the foundation for Black Wall Street's legendary rise. Black Wall Street wasn't just a name, it was a reality. The Greenwood district pulsed with economic energy. Black Native American-owned businesses lined the streets, offering a wide array of goods and services. Money flowed within the community, creating a self-sustaining ecosystem. This economic prosperity was a testament to the hard work and ingenuity of Greenwood's residents. The district boasted an impressive array of businesses, from grocery stores and restaurants to clothing shops, professional services like doctors' offices, law firms, and barbershops. This diversity reflected the community's commitment to meeting its own needs and fostered a sense of self-sufficiency. The economic success of Black Wall Street was a powerful symbol of Black Native American empowerment. It challenged the prevailing narrative of Black inferiority and demonstrated the potential for Black Native American communities to thrive economically. Greenwood's residents took pride in their community's achievements. This shared vision fueled their entrepreneurial spirit. Business diversity and innovation. Greenwood's businesses were not just replicating existing models, they were innovating. They were creating new products and services. They were adapting to the specific needs of their community. They were demonstrating remarkable entrepreneurial spirit. This creativity and adaptability were key to their success. One example of this innovation was the establishment of the Stratford Hotel, a luxurious establishment that rivaled the finest hotels in Tulsa. It served as a hub for Black travelers and dignitaries, further enhancing Greenwood's reputation. Another example was the Dreamland Theater, a popular entertainment venue that showcased Black Native American talent and provided a space for community gatherings. It served as a cultural center for Greenwood. The diversity of businesses in Greenwood reflected the diverse talents and skills of its residents. From skilled tradespeople to professionals, everyone contributed to the district's economic vibrancy. This diversity strengthened the community's economic base. The circulation of Black Native American dollars. A key factor in Greenwood's economic success was the circulation of Black Native American dollars within the community. Residents prioritized supporting Black Native American-owned businesses, understanding that their spending power could fuel economic growth and create jobs. This practice, often referred to as buying black, was a cornerstone of Greenwood's prosperity. This internal economic ecosystem created a virtuous cycle. Money earned by Black Native American workers was spent at Black-owned businesses. These businesses, in turn, hired more so-called Black workers and invested back into the community. This reinforced the community's economic strength. This practice not only boosted the local economy but also fostered a sense of community pride and self-reliance. It demonstrated the power of collective action. The circulation of Black Native American dollars was a powerful tool for economic empowerment. It allowed Greenwood's residents to control their own economic destiny. Social and cultural vibrancy. Greenwood was more than just an economic powerhouse, it was a vibrant social and cultural hub. The district boasted numerous churches, schools, and community centers. These institutions provided essential services and fostered a strong sense of community. They served as gathering places for residents to connect and celebrate their shared heritage. Music filled the air, with jazz and blues clubs providing entertainment and showcasing local talent. The Dreamland Theater hosted plays, concerts, and other cultural events. These venues served as important cultural outlets for the community. Greenwood's residents took pride in their rich cultural heritage. They celebrated their achievements and traditions. They created a vibrant and dynamic community. The social and cultural vibrancy of Greenwood strengthened the bonds within the community. It made Greenwood a truly special place. Segregation, a cruel and pervasive system casting a long shadow over America. It was designed to oppress the Black Native Americans and reclassified them as blacks, Negroes, colored, and falsely called them African Americans. It created separate and unequal worlds. It denied Black Native American people access to opportunities. This system of racial discrimination was deeply ingrained in the fabric of society. It shaped every aspect of life. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, segregation was no less prevalent. Keep in mind, Oklahoma was originally Washita Native American land. It was robbed from the Washita people, who were dark-skinned Native American during the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. In this so-called transaction with France, signed on April 30, 1803, The United States purchased 828,000 square miles of land west of the Mississippi River for $15 million. For roughly 4 cents an acre, the United States doubled its size, expanding the nation westward. By 1886, the Washita people were completely pushed off their land. When the black Native American from the west, who were from the Creek, Blackfoot Nation arrived in Tulsa. Black Native American residents were relegated to the Greenwood district. They were denied access to white neighborhoods, businesses, and institutions. This forced separation created a world within a world. It fostered a sense of isolation. The walls of segregation were both physical and psychological. They limited physical movement and access. They also instilled a sense of inferiority. They reinforced the notion that black Native American people were somehow less than. Segregation was not just a matter of separate facilities, it was a system of power. It was designed to maintain white supremacy. While segregation imposed severe limitations, it also inadvertently fostered innovation and self-reliance within the Greenwood community. Faced with exclusion from white-owned businesses, black Native American residents created their own. They built a thriving economic ecosystem within the confines of Greenwood. This necessity bred ingenuity. The lack of access to white-owned banks spurred the creation of black Native American-owned financial institutions. These institutions provided crucial capital for black Native American businesses. They enabled the growth and expansion of Greenwood's economy. They empowered black Native American residents to control their own financial destinies. The absence of white-owned shops and services led to the establishment of a diverse community of black Native American-owned businesses within Greenwood. From grocery stores to restaurants, from barbershops to theaters, the community catered to its own needs. This self-sufficiency strengthened the community's economic base. Segregation, while oppressive, inadvertently created an environment where black Native entrepreneurship could flourish. The concept of buying black took on a profound significance within the Greenwood community. It was more than just a slogan, it was a vital economic strategy. It was an act of resistance against segregation. It was a way to empower the community from within. By circulating their dollars within Greenwood, residents ensured that their money stayed within the community. This fueled economic growth, it created jobs, it strengthened the collective economic power of Black Wall Street. It demonstrated the potential for self-sufficiency. This practice fostered a sense of unity and mutual support within the community. It reinforced the idea that everyone had a role to play in Greenwood's success. The economic unity of Greenwood was a powerful force. It enabled the community to thrive despite the limitations imposed by segregation. Section 4. A double-edged sword. While segregation fostered innovation and economic unity within Greenwood, it also created a precarious dependence on the white community. Black Native American residents often worked for white employers, earning wages that were then spent within Greenwood. This created a complex economic relationship. This dependence on white employers made Greenwood vulnerable to external economic shocks. Any downturn in the white community's economy could have a ripple effect on Greenwood. This created a sense of precariousness. Furthermore, the segregationist system limited the potential for growth and expansion beyond Greenwood's boundaries. Black Native American businesses faced significant barriers to accessing wider markets. This restricted their ability to compete on a larger scale. Segregation was a double-edged sword. The spark that ignited the flames. The spring of 1921 brought with it a simmering tension in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Racial prejudice, fueled by envy of Greenwood's prosperity, festered beneath the surface of the city's segregated society. The smallest incident could ignite a firestorm. The fuse was lit on May 30th, 1921. A young so-called black shoeshiner, Dick Rowland, entered an elevator in the Drexel building downtown. Keep in mind this was all staged. Sarah Page, a white elevator operator, screamed. Rowland was immediately accused of assaulting her. Now let's break down the plot. These are black hand tactics all day long. Overstand what the black hand is all about. Hold on, let's go back. Do you remember? The Rosewood Massacre. The Rosewood was a racially motivated attack on a black Seminole Native American community in Florida in January 1923. On New Year's Day, 1923, Fannie Taylor, a white woman, claimed that she was assaulted by a so-called black man named Jesse Hunter, who come to find out was made up later. Taylor's husband, James, gathered a white mob to search for Hunter. On January 5, 1923, a mob of over 200 white men attacked the Black Seminole community of Rosewood. The mob shot and beat Black Seminole residents, burned buildings to the ground, and forced survivors to flee. On January 2nd, a mob of white men kidnapped, tortured, and lynched Sam Carter, a Black Seminole craftsman from Rosewood, on suspicion that he had helped Jesse Hunter escape. White men continued to terrorize Rosewood searching for Mr. Hunter, and Black residents armed themselves in defense. Late on the night of January 4th, a white posse fired into the home of Black Rosewood resident Sylvester Carrier, whom they suspected of harboring Mr. Hunter, and killed an elderly woman. A gunfight between Carrier and the mob lasted into the early morning, killing people on both sides. Outraged that Black Seminole residents had fought back, the posse left the scene to regroup and returned with more men. On January 5th, a mob of between 200 to 300 white men attacked Rosewood, killing an estimated 30 to 40 black men, women, and children on site, and burning the town to the ground. Black Seminole residents hid in the woods and fled by train to Gainesville, Florida, never to return. Survivors later recounted that Fannie Taylor had made false accusations against Jesse Hunter to conceal her extramarital affair with a white man. An official 1993 Florida state report placed the death toll at 8, but some estimates suggest as many as 200 people were killed. Survivors fled to Gainesville, but many were haunted by the experience. In the 1990s, direct Seminole descendants of the families who lived in Rosewood led the fight for reparations. A bill was passed that awarded payments to survivors and set up a scholarship fund for their descendants. Alright, let's go back. Keep in mind, gay Edgar Hoover became Assistant Director of the Bureau of Investigation, BOI, in 1921. You must know COINTELPRO didn't start in the 1960s like everyone thinks. COINTELPRO started in 1913 when Noble Drew Ali bumped left. Hoover taking down a whole town of successful Nubian Native Americans was his first hurdle. They needed a plan to go in and massacre the whole town. They needed to stop these so-called blacks from growing stronger in wealth and power. Dick Rowland, or Rowland-born Jimmy Jones, also called Diamond Dick. Dick Rowland was hired as an informant for J. Edgar Hoover and the government to stage this event. They had crimes on Jimmy Jones' Dick Rowland, which was his cover name. They used these crimes as leverage. In fact, Jimmy wasn't even from Tulsa. He was from 2 towns over. He was from Stillwater, Oklahoma, but attends school in Tulsa. His background before then is hazy due to cover-up stories. He may have been adopted by a woman named Damie Rowland Ford, who recounted taking in a young orphan named Jimmy Jones in the early 1900s. She said that the boy took on her surname and picked out the new first name Dick as a teen. Other sources point to him being the son of David and Alice Ollie Rowland, Damie's parents, who owned a rooming house on Archer Street in Greenwood. You gotta overstand how much they wanted to take down this town. He liked to call himself Diamond Dick. Dick Rowland, a tall teenager with velvet skin, wore a diamond ring as he shined shoes in downtown Tulsa. Rowland, 19, had recently dropped out of Booker T. Washington High School, where he was a star football player because he was making so much money polishing the shoes of oilmen in a city that billed itself as the oil capital of the world. Booker T. Washington back then was one of the only so-called black schools that had a football team back then in 1920, since most black schools couldn't afford the equipment. That's another key point. There were black Native American millionaires in Tulsa in 1921. Keep in mind about the Rockefeller oil family. Keep in mind they made this story line up for Jimmy Jones, whose cover name was Dick Rowland. Overstand COINTELPRO operations? However, Dick Rowland came to be. Residents of Greenwood remembered him clearly decades after the massacre. W.D. Williams recalled him being a nice old boy as a classmate at Booker T. Washington High School before Rowland dropped out. Robert Fairchild said they shined shoes together downtown. He was handsome, very good looking, Fairchild said in 1978. As near as I can recall Dick, he was a ladies' man. You see, Dick, or should I say, Jimmy had a thing for so-called white girls. Fairchild and Rowland would have made decent money shining shoes. $5 per week, plus as much as $10 or $20 in tips from the white oilmen and bankers who had more cash than they knew how to spend. According to local lore, Dick made enough money to buy flashy suits and jewelry, earning the nickname Diamond Dick. Even if that was the case, his opportunities would have still been hemmed in by Jim Crow. Jim Crow laws were a collection of state and local statutes that mandated segregation in public places, including schools, parks, transportation, and restrooms. The laws denied so-called African Americans basic civil rights, such as the right to vote and hold jobs, and made it difficult for them to get an education. Those who tried to defy Jim Crow laws faced arrest, fines, jail time, violence, and even death. The Jim Crow era had a devastating impact on African Americans, and millions migrated to the Northeast and Midwest to escape the laws and find a better life. The Jim Crow Museum of Racist Imagery at Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan is dedicated to teaching tolerance and promoting a more just society through the study of Jim Crow laws and customs. Hoover and the white government directed Dick Rowland on May 30th, 1921 to take a break from his shoe stand inside a pool hall and then walk to the Drexel building to use the only public restroom for black people in segregated Tulsa. The shoe shine parlor where he worked had no bathroom, so workers would go to the Drexel building, a 4-story structure about a block away, which offered one of the only toilets available to black people downtown doing Jim Crow. The bathroom was on the 4th floor, above a department store called Renberg's. This is how the story plays out. Rowland passed Renberg's, a department store that occupied the first 2 floors of the Drexel building, and stepped into an open wire-caged elevator operated by a 17-year-old white girl named Sarah Page. Sarah knew the plan, who mysteriously disappears after the accident. Rowland was directed to act like he accidentally stepped on Page's foot, prompting her to scream. Taking a prop purse and then running out the building, Hoover and the government used their #1 propaganda machine, the media, which was the newspaper at the time, as part of their plan. Propaganda is a form of communication that aims to influence public opinion or persuade an audience to support a cause or belief. It can be used to spread facts, arguments, rumors, half-truths, or lies to create a desired effect. Propaganda is often biased and manipulative, and it can involve using loaded language or selectively presenting facts. Hoover and the BOI had already pressed up the storyline before the accident. Shortly after 3 p.m. on Tuesday, May 31, 1921, anyone who picked up a copy of the afternoon Tulsa Tribune newspaper was exposed to a front-page article titled, "Nab Negro for Attacking Girl in an Elevator." The odds that the reader's attention would be drawn to the article was heightened by the outcries of the paper's newsboys, who used it to hawk the paper. The article was both false and, where literally true, misleading. The article opened by proclaiming that a Negro delivery boy who gave his name to the police as Diamond Dick, but who has been identified as Dick Rowland, was arrested for attempting to assault the 17-year-old white elevator operator in the Drexel building on Monday. Off the bat, the reader learned that the culprit boldly gave the now incriminating nickname to the police, requiring them to unwind his identity. There is, however, only the thinnest chance that the police were unaware of the real Dick Rowland, or should we say Jimmy Jones. I don't know if there is some connection here, but you remember James Wormley Jones, the first so-called black FBI agent used to take down Marcus Garvey. During his time in the FBI, Jones served in New York City and Pittsburgh. In New York, he was assigned to infiltrate the Universal Negro Improvement Association under the leadership of Marcus Garvey. Although he was seeking evidence of subversive activities during the Red Scare of 1919, Jones's work led to the arrest and trial of Garvey on mail fraud charges. Jones was appointed as the first so-called African-American special agent on November 19, 1919, by Bureau of Investigation Director A. Bruce Belaski. Jones was assigned to a new section of the Justice Department created to track the activities of groups perceived as subversive. His work there was under the direct supervision of J. Edgar Hoover. Rumors spread like wildfire. The Tulsa Tribune, a local newspaper, published an inflammatory article. It fueled racial tensions. It called for a lynch mob. White Tulsans, armed and enraged, descended upon the courthouse. They demanded Rowland's surrender. Greenwood's residents, fearing the worst, rallied to protect him. The spark had ignited a firestorm of racial violence that would forever scar the city of Tulsa. The descent into chaos. As night fell, the violence intensified. A white mob, armed with guns and fueled by hatred, stormed into Greenwood. Now, this white mob were hundreds of recruited men by Hoover and the government, who had just got out of World War I. So they were skilled at warfare and making bombs. These men just so happened to be staged outside of Greenwood, waiting on a signal at the time of the accident. They began to systematically destroy the community. They looted and burned businesses. They shot at residents indiscriminately. The once thriving district descended into chaos. Black Native American residents fought back valiantly. So-called Black World War I veterans, trained in combat, organized a defense. They tried to protect their homes and businesses. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Hoover and his gang had this well planned out. The mob's violence was relentless. The sound of gunfire echoed through the streets. The smell of smoke filled the air. The screams of terror pierced the night. Greenwood, once a symbol of black prosperity, was being systematically destroyed. The massacre continued throughout the night and into the next day. The mob's fury showed no signs of abating. They burned homes, churches, and schools. They destroyed everything in their path. They left a trail of devastation in their wake. They wanted O.W. Gurley dead. O.W. Gurley and his family fled to Los Angeles, California. Destruction and devastation. By the time the violence subsided, Greenwood lay in ruins. 35 city blocks had been burned to the ground. Over 1,200 homes were destroyed. Hundreds of businesses were looted and burned. The economic heart of Black Wall Street had been ripped out. The devastation was complete. The official death toll remains uncertain. Estimates range from 36 to 300. Many victims were buried in unmarked graves. The true extent of the carnage may never be known. The massacre was a horrific act of racial violence planned by the Black Hand, using their guard dogs. Thousands of Black Native American residents were left homeless and destitute. They had lost everything: their homes, their businesses, their livelihoods, and their loved ones. The massacre had shattered their lives. The physical destruction was only part of the story. The emotional and psychological scars ran deep. The massacre left a lasting trauma on the survivors and their descendants. It was a wound that would take generations to heal. The aftermath of violence. In the immediate aftermath of the massacre, Black Native American Tulsans faced immense hardship. They were left to fend for themselves. They received little assistance from the city or state. They were denied justice. The perpetrators of the violence were never held accountable. Many survivors fled Tulsa, seeking safety and opportunity elsewhere. Those who remained faced discrimination and hardship. They struggled to rebuild their lives. They were denied access to resources and opportunities. The massacre was largely erased from the historical record. For decades, it was rarely spoken about. It was a hidden chapter in American history. The survivors lived with the trauma in silence. The Tulsa Race Massacre was a horrific act of racial terrorism. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of Black prosperity in a society deeply rooted in white supremacy. It was a tragedy that would haunt the city of Tulsa for generations to come. The Tribune's Nab Negro next described Page's claim that Rowland was skulking outside her elevator, which the reader would see as nothing but threatening, but which is said to have gone over her head. The bombshell then dropped. After entering the elevator, Diamond Dick attacked the white girl by scratching her face and hands and tearing her clothes. Apart from Nab Negro, there is no evidence that either Page or the Renberg's clerk ever claimed facial or other scratches or torn clothes. This was all pre-orchestrated by the government under the order of the Black Hand. Page's neighbor, Anna Green, made no mention of them to reporters, and she had seen Page an hour after the accident. After Greenwood was in ruins, the Tulsa Tribune's managing editor Victor Barnett admitted that part of the article was untrue, though one would have to read New York or Chicago newspapers to discover that. Whoever gave that information to the Tribune appears to have made it up out of whole cloth. The article next revealed that an unnamed clerk in Renberg's clothing store ran to Page's assistance and that he and Page identified Rowland on Tuesday. The clerk, name still unrevealed, was later interviewed by a detective hired by Roscoe Dungy, publisher of Oklahoma City's newspaper, The Black Dispatch. Dungy described his investigator as a white man of unquestioned honesty and integrity, who reported, "He talked with the white man who went to the girl when the difficulty happened. She was not bruised or her clothing disarranged in any way," stated this honest man. Emphasis in Dungy's original. Who was the source of all this misleading and inflammatory falseness? Buck Franklin was later told by a source connected to Gustafson that a fresh cub reporter without any experience gave out the erroneous version. The only part of the article identified as coming from anybody else was the poignant line that Sarah Page was an orphan working to better herself. Even that might have come from a police-connected source. The 1921 police also had at least two motives to fabricate or embellish the story. The first was to create public zeal for a replay of Roy Belton's 1920 lynching, one that would send a message not to hijackers, but to uppity and supposedly uprising-inclined Black people. If that sounds like madness to the modern ear, what word better describes the Belton murder in which the same police played such a cooperative role? Second, by reserving the fake news for the Tulsa Tribune, The police set up their arch-enemy's newspaper to take the fall for any adverse consequences, such as Rowland's death. One day later, the police leaped to do exactly that, pointing fingers at the Tribune, the only white institution that came in for the least blame. While the embers were still smoking and belching sparks in Greenwood, and its people were being corralled, James Patton issued a Wednesday night statement to the Tribune's competitor, the Tulsa Daily World. This was printed Thursday morning under the headlines, "Story of Attack on Woman Denied," and Girl admitted to police that one published story was not true in details. To make a long story short, the white girl page later said, "Nothing happens," and that Dick Rowland was innocent, and then disappeared into the night. In fact, her real name wasn't even Page. This was all staged. Dick Rowland was released, and also disappeared out of the town. Later, Dick Rowland, or should I say, Jimmy Jones, may have been killed in a wharf explosion in Oregon in the 1960s, although his name does not appear on the list of people killed in the explosion. However, a relative said he died 1967-1979, and some records say in 1967 he and Sarah Page were together in Kansas. Was Sarah Page, if that's her real name, Dick Rowland's girlfriend or wife? This happened all the time where they use the white girl story. Remember, they did this to King Kong, they did this to Emmett Till, who is Chief Little Horn. Carolyn Bryant Donham, the white woman whose accusation led to the 1955 lynching of black teen Emmett Till in Mississippi, and whose role in the brutal death was reconsidered by a grand jury as recently as last year, has died in Louisiana, the Calcasieu Parish Coroner's Office confirmed to CNN. Get a load of this. Before she died, she comes clean on her deathbed, stating that Emmett Till was set up. He was innocent. Keep in mind, this is the black hand we're dealing with. Bill Oxley, who worked for the CIA, comes clean on his deathbed, saying that they took out Bob Marley for the USA Corp. Get a load of this. Emmett Till reincarnated as Tamir E. Rice in 2002. The Black Hand and their servants, the Killer Clowns, logging his birth, watched the stars, and knew that they had to take him out before he could reach the age to sound the war horn for the second attempt. On November 22, 2014, Tamir E. Rice, a 12-year-old black Native American boy, was killed in Cleveland, Ohio, by Timothy Loman, a 26-year-old white patrolman with the Cleveland Division of Police, CDP. Rice was carrying a replica toy gun. Loman shot him almost immediately upon arriving on the scene. Loman and his partner, 46-year-old Frank Garmbach, had been responding to a dispatch call regarding a male who had a gun. Like we said, this is the Black Hand tactics all day long. A caller reported that a male was pointing a pistol at random people at the Cudell Recreation Center, a park in Cleveland's Public Works Department. 6. The caller twice told to the dispatcher that the pistol was probably fake, and also stated that the male was probably a juvenile, but the dispatcher did not relay either of these statements to Loman and Garmbach. To make a long story short, this was the return of Chief Little Horn, and they knew it. Timothy Loman was MK Ultra and a Manchurian candidate. A Manchurian candidate is a person, especially a politician, being used as a puppet by an enemy power. The term is commonly used to indicate disloyalty or corruption, whether intentional or unintentional. The family sued the Cleveland PD and received a $6 million wrongful death settlement. Remember, in 1999, Martin Luther King Jr. family won a wrongful death lawsuit against USA Corp. and other unknown co-conspirators, including government agencies, in a civil trial. The jury found that King's assassination was the result of a conspiracy and awarded the family $360 million in damages, which they donated to charity. Don't about the Tuskegee experiment. The Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male was a study conducted between 1932 and 1972 by the United States Public Health Service and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on a group of nearly 400 African American men with syphilis. The goal was to observe the natural history of untreated syphilis in black populations, but the subjects were completely unaware and were instead told they were receiving treatment for bad blood when in fact, they received no treatment at all. To sum it up, USA Corp has spilled the blood of many saints. Revelation chapter 16 verse 6, for they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. Don't forget about what happened in Philadelphia. On May 13, 1985, the Philadelphia Police Department dropped a satchel bomb on 6221 Osage Avenue in West Philadelphia, where members of the Black Liberation Advocacy Group MOVE lived. 11 people were killed, including 5 children, and 1 adult and 1 child survived. Okay, back to Black Wall Street. The unseen scars. The physical scars of the Tulsa Race Massacre may have faded, but the unseen scars remain. The trauma continues to affect the descendants. They carry the weight of their ancestors' suffering. They live with the legacy of injustice. The massacre had a profound impact on Greenwood's economic trajectory. The destruction set back the community's progress for decades. It created a cycle of poverty and disadvantage. The Tulsa Race Massacre is a stark reminder of racial violence's enduring legacy. It is a testament to human resilience in the face of adversity. The sun rose on a scene of devastation. The Greenwood district lay in ruins. Smoke from the fires lingered in the air. The stench of charred wood permeated the atmosphere. The Tulsa Race Massacre left an indelible scar. Survivors emerged, surveying the damage. They had lost everything. Many had lost loved ones. Yet a spark of resilience flickered. They refused to be defeated. They began picking up the pieces, determined to rebuild their community. The task ahead was daunting. The physical destruction was overwhelming. The emotional scars ran deep. But the spirit of Greenwood remained unbroken. They would rebuild, stronger and more resilient. They would not let the massacre define them. The rebuilding effort began almost immediately. Survivors gathered what little they had salvaged and started to clear the debris. They offered words of encouragement and support. The Greenwood community faced immense obstacles. Black Native American-owned businesses, once symbols of prosperity, were reduced to ashes. Business owners began to rebuild their shops and offices. The Greenwood community was not alone. Support poured in from Black communities across the nation. Years passed, and Greenwood slowly began to rise from the ashes. New homes and businesses were built. The streets once again bustled with activity. The community's resilience was evident in every brick laid, every shop opened, every life rebuilt. The scars of the massacre remained, however. The trauma lingered. The memory of the violence and loss continued to haunt the community. The fight for justice and recognition was far from over. The Greenwood district never fully regained its former glory. The massacre had a lasting impact on the community's economic and social fabric. The dream of Black Wall Street, though tarnished, lived on in the hearts of its residents. The rebuilding of Greenwood was a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Black community. It was a story of resilience, determination, and hope in the face of unimaginable adversity. It was a story that would inspire generations to come. The legacy of Black Wall Street is a complex tapestry woven with threads of triumph, tragedy, and enduring hope. It stands as a testament to the indomitable spirit of a community that dared to dream of prosperity and self-determination. The Tulsa Race Massacre attempted to erase Black Wall Street, to extinguish its vibrant flame. Yet the spirit of Greenwood could not be entirely extinguished. Today, a new generation is working to revive the dream of Black Wall Street. Organizations like Black Tech Street are fostering Black entrepreneurship and innovation. The Greenwood Rising Center stands as a beacon of remembrance, educating visitors about the massacre and celebrating the rich history and culture of Black Wall Street. The story of Black Wall Street is a powerful reminder of resilience and entrepreneurial spirit. A thriving economic center built against all odds, tragically destroyed by racial hatred. This story must not be forgotten. The legacy continues to inspire economic justice and community revitalization. It serves as a model for fostering Black Native American entrepreneurship. The Tulsa Race Massacre was a horrific act of racial terrorism, but it did not extinguish the spirit of Greenwood. Remembering Black Wall Street is about learning from the past and building a thriving future.